Have you ever heard of a haunting so terrifying that even seasoned police officers refuse to step inside? A case so disturbing it was officially documented by Child Protective Services, doctors, and law enforcement. This isn't a Hollywood movie script. This is the true story of Latoya Ammons and her family, a story that has come to be known as the haunting of the Gary, Indiana Demon House. Get ready, because what you're about to hear will challenge everything you think you know about the supernatural. Our story begins in November 2011. Latoya Ammons, a single mother with 3 young children, was just looking for a fresh start. She found what seemed like the perfect place, a small, unassuming rental house on Carolina Street in Gary, Indiana. The rent was affordable, the neighborhood was quiet, and it felt like a safe haven for her family. For a few brief days, it was, but that peace was about to be shattered in the most unimaginable way possible. The first sign that something was deeply wrong wasn't a ghostly apparition or a disembodied voice. It was flies, swarms of them, huge black horseflies that suddenly infested the screened-in porch. This was in the middle of a cold Indiana December. It made no sense. Latoya and her mother, Rosa, would clean them up, swat them, spray them, but they just kept coming back, buzzing relentlessly in the dead of winter. It was an unnatural plague, a bizarre omen of the darkness that was beginning to seep into the cracks of their new home. They dismissed it as a strange fluke at first, but it was only the beginning. Soon, the strange occurrences moved from the porch to inside the house. The family started hearing things they couldn't explain. Footsteps creaking on the basement stairs when everyone was upstairs. The heavy sound of someone walking in the empty living room above them. Doors, which they knew they had closed, would be found wide open. Other times, they would slam shut with a violent bang, making everyone jump. It was as if an unseen resident was making its presence known, slowly, deliberately, testing the family's nerves. Latoya and her mother tried to rationalize it. Old house, strange drafts, maybe the kids were playing tricks. But then the shadows started to move. Out of the corner of their eyes, they would see dark shapes darting across hallways, looming in doorways where no one was standing. One evening, Rosa was sitting in the living room when she saw a tall, shadowy figure of a man pacing back and forth. She could even see wet, boot-shaped footprints appearing on the dry carpet as it walked. Her heart hammered in her chest. She blinked, and in that split second, both the figure and the footprints vanished completely. The fear was no longer just a feeling, it was becoming real. The malevolent presence in the house then turned its attention from simple scares to something far more sinister: the children. Latoya's 9-year-old son began to act strangely. He would sit in a closet, talking to a little boy that no one else could see. He described this invisible friend as someone who was scared and hurt. At first, Latoya thought it was just a child's active imagination, a way of coping with the move. But his behavior grew more disturbing. One day, his eyes rolled back in his head, and a sinister, unnatural grin spread across his face. He started speaking in a deep, guttural voice that didn't sound like his own, saying things that a child his age couldn't possibly know. It wasn't just him. All 3 children began to show signs of a dark influence. Their personalities would shift in an instant. They would become violent, growling at each other and at their mother. This wasn't typical sibling rivalry. This was something else entirely. They would complain of feeling like something was choking them or holding them down at night. The most terrifying incident happened late one night. Latoya and her mother were woken by a scream. They ran into the children's bedroom to find Latoya's 12-year-old daughter levitating several feet above her bed. Her body was completely rigid, as if frozen in midair, her eyes wide with terror but completely unconscious. As they watched in horror, she suddenly dropped back onto the mattress. She woke up screaming, with no memory of what had just happened. This was no longer just a haunting. This was a direct physical assault. Desperate and terrified, Latoya reached out for help everywhere she could. She called churches, paranormal investigators, and psychics. Most dismissed her stories as cries for attention or signs of mental distress. She even took her children to the doctor, who could find nothing medically wrong with them but noted their strange, violent behavior. Feeling completely alone, she turned to the Department of Child Services and the police, pleading with them to believe her. Initially, they were skeptical, suspecting child abuse or neglect might be the real issue. The system that was meant to protect her family was now turning against her, investigating her as a potential danger to her own children. The turning point came during a visit to the family physician's office. While awaiting an evaluation, LaToya's two sons began cursing at each other in deep, demonic voices. Then, the unthinkable happened. In full view of a family case manager and a hospital nurse, the younger son was lifted into the air by an unseen force, contorted backward, and thrown against the wall. He didn't stumble or jump. He was hurled as if by a powerful, invisible pair of hands. The two witnesses, a seasoned nurse and a skeptical social worker, screamed and fled the room in terror. They later gave official statements confirming what they had seen, corroborating LaToya's story. Finally, she had credible witnesses. The case of LaToya Ammons was no longer a question of a mother's sanity. It was now an officially documented paranormal event. With this chilling testimony, the Gary Police Department took the case seriously. Captain Charles Austin, a 36-year veteran of the force and a self-proclaimed skeptic, decided to visit the house on Carolina Street himself. What he experienced there would change his beliefs forever. As soon as he arrived, his police radio began malfunctioning, spewing static. Inside, he and other officers felt inexplicable cold spots and heard strange noises. They decided to leave a digital recorder running in the empty house. When they played it back, they could clearly hear a disembodied voice whispering, "Hey," but the most compelling piece of evidence came from a photograph. An officer took a picture of the basement stairs, and when it was developed, it showed a faint, cloudy figure standing on the steps. Another photo, taken of the exterior of the house when it was confirmed to be empty, revealed a shadowy face looking out from an upstairs window. Captain Austin was so shaken by his experiences that he later told reporters he believed the house was a portal to hell. He and several other officers refused to enter the home ever again. After leaving the property that night, his car malfunctioned, the seat moving back and forth on its own. The haunting was real, and it was powerful. With the police and child services now believers, they sought the help of someone equipped to handle such a dark force, a Catholic priest. Father Michael Maginot, at the request of the Gary Diocese, agreed to investigate. After interviewing the family and witnessing the disturbing phenomena firsthand, he concluded that they were victims of demonic oppression and possession. He requested permission to perform an official exorcism. The church authorized 3. Father Maginot performed the first exorcism on LaToya herself. During the ritual, the house seemed to react. The lights flickered, oil dripped from the blinds, and the walls themselves seemed to groan and creak. LaToya convulsed, speaking in languages she didn't know and lashing out with unnatural strength. It took for adults to hold her down. He performed 2 more exorcisms, one a minor rite in English and a final, powerful exorcism in Latin. He described the presence in the house as being tied to over 200 individual demons, all under the command of a more powerful entity. He believed these rituals weakened the entity's hold on the family, but the house itself remained profoundly dangerous. After months of relentless terror, LaToya Ammons and her children finally moved out of the house on Carolina Street in 2012. They never returned. The story, however, was far from over. It attracted national attention, becoming one of the most well-documented paranormal cases in American history. The house was eventually purchased by Zach Bagans, the host of the show Ghost Adventures. He and his crew filmed a documentary they called Demon House, capturing their own terrifying experiences inside. The activity was so intense and the energy so negative that after the investigation, Bagans felt the structure was a threat to the public. In 2016, he had the house completely demolished, believing it was the only way to close the portal and stop the evil from spreading. Today, the lot on Carolina Street is empty. There's nothing there but grass and dirt where the small rental house once stood, but the story lives on. Locals and paranormal enthusiasts still visit the site, and some claim the land itself feels cold and unwelcoming. They say that if you stand there on a quiet night, you can still feel a sense of dread hanging in the air. Some have even reported hearing faint whispers carried on the wind, a chilling echo of the evil that once called that place home. Thanks so much for watching this deep dive into one of America's most terrifying hauntings. What do you think happened in the Gary Demon House? Let me know your theories in the comments below. And if you enjoy stories that explore the dark and unexplained, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content just like this. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you in the next video.